This is a bridge to nowhere, and I don't mean that metaphorically. Nearly 1,000 feet of rusting American steel stretches across the black, tannin-stained waters of the Suwannee River, only to dead end into dense Florida forest. No tire tracks, no destination, just cracked asphalt, creeping weeds, and time doing what time does best. But here's the twist. This bridge wasn't always a dead end, and it's not even the bridge to nowhere most people think of. That honor belongs to a different abandoned span just upriver. No, this is the Hillman Bridge, built in 1926 as a bold promise to the future. A steel artery for a new era of automobile travel, backed by one of Florida's most powerful and complicated men, a man known as the Turpentine King. Today, the future this bridge was built for has moved on. The nearby town is gone, and all that remains is this silent giant still standing guard over a story most people forgot ever existed. So what happened? Why build a monument to progress that leads to nothing? Let's talk about Captain W.J. Hillman and the ghost town his bridge refuses to abandon. To understand the bridge, you have to understand the place it was meant to serve. Ellaville Ghost Town, or rather, what's left of it. Where the bridge now dead ends, Ellaville once stood. If you walk the quiet trails here, you're moving through the outline of a vanished town. Brick footprints where buildings once stood, a cemetery tucked beneath the trees, and scattered ruins slowly being reclaimed by the forest. Ellaville was founded around 1861 by George Franklin Drew, a sharp businessman who would later become Florida's 12th governor. Drew looked at North Florida's vast pine forests and saw opportunity. He built a massive steam power sawmill along the river, one of the largest in the state, employing hundreds. By the 1870s, Ellaville was booming. It had rail access, steamboat traffic, churches, schools, the full blueprint of an American industrial town carved out of wilderness. But boom towns rarely age gracefully. A devastating fire destroyed the mill in 1898. Though rebuilt, the surrounding pine forests were already thinning. By the early 1900s, the mill shut down for good. Floods repeatedly battered the town. World War I and the Great Depression finished what nature started. When the post office closed in 1942, Ellaville crossed the invisible line from struggling town to certified ghost. Even Drew's once grand mansion, abandoned, scavenged, and vandalized, finally burned in the 1970s. So, if Ellaville was already fading, why build a massive steel bridge here in 1926? That answer is bolted into every rivet. Officially, this structure is the Hillman Bridge, named for Captain Winder Josephus Hillman. Hillman's fortune came from the same pine forests that built Ellaville, but not from lumber. He was after resin, pine sap, turpentine. After moving to Live Oak, Florida, Hillman entered the booming naval stores industry, which supplied turpentine, rosin, and pitch to a rapidly industrializing nation. It was brutal, dangerous work, and wildly profitable. But there's a chapter here that can't be ignored. During the post-Reconstruction era, Florida operated under the convict lease system, which allowed private companies to lease prisoners, overwhelmingly black men, for forced labor. Conditions were notoriously violent and exploitative. Hillman began his rise as a guard at one of these turpentine camps. Within years, he was placed in charge of hundreds of incarcerated laborers. It was here that he earned the title captain, a name that followed him for life. With that foundation, Hillman built a vast Turpentine empire, eventually becoming a director of the Consolidated Naval Stores Company in Jacksonville, one of the largest operations of its kind in the nation. By the early 1900s, he was widely known as Suwannee County's first millionaire. By 1902, Hillman retired from Turpentine and reinvented himself as a civic leader in Live Oak. He invested in farms, helped establish a bank, and built the Suwannee Hotel. And then came automobiles. Florida's roads at the time were little more than sand and mud, but Hillman saw opportunity. When his friend Cary Hardy became governor, Hillman was appointed chairman of the newly formed Florida State Road Department. He became one of the loudest champions of paved highways, often funding road construction himself. One private road to his farm later became part of US 129, still known locally as Hillman Highway. Which brings us back to this bridge. By the mid-1920s, US Highway 90 was a critical east-west route, but here it stopped cold at the Suwannee River. A modern bridge was essential, and given Hillman's influence, it was only fitting that the project bore his name. Construction began in 1925, led by the R.H.H. Blackwell Company of New York. When the bridge opened in 1926, its 916-foot steel truss design was a marvel, finally linking Madison and Suwannee counties and ushering in a new era of automobile travel. There was some debate over its name. The State Chamber of Commerce favored Suwannee River Bridge for tourism reasons, thanks to the song. Local politics won. This was Hillman's county. This was Hillman's Bridge. For 60 years, it carried traffic faithfully along one of Florida's most important highways. Not for Ellaville, that town was already gone, but for the future. By the 1980s, the bridge had become obsolete. Narrow lanes and steel trusses no longer met modern traffic demands. Local accounts suggest that a collision with an oversized truck caused structural damage, hastening its end. In 1986, a wider, concrete bridge opened beside it, and the Hillman Bridge was officially retired. Walking it today is surreal. Modern traffic roars just yards away, while this span remains frozen in time. Railings cool to the touch, weeds pushing through pavement, the Suwannee flowing quietly beneath it all. It's peaceful and a little haunting. So here it stands, a bridge to nowhere. But it was never really about the destination. It's about ambition, about extraction, about men who shaped landscapes and economies and left complicated legacies behind. Ellaville was swallowed by the forest. Hillman's empire faded. But this bridge, it refuses to disappear. It's a reminder that even our proudest monuments to progress can be bypassed by time, left standing not as failures, but as witnesses. No longer a bridge to the future, it has become something better, a bridge back into the past. If you enjoy wandering through Florida's forgotten corners with us, consider subscribing. There are plenty more lost stories out there, and Murph willing, we'll keep finding them. In the meantime, get out there and explore the world your way.